party people? It's Chris with Profoto, and it's launch day. Oh, do I need to party people it again? Did we go too soon? We went too soon. We started too soon. So, what's up, party people? It's Chris with Profoto, and this is our weekly live broadcast we call Geared Up, where we talk about gear, lighting techniques, just photography in general. And we take your questions right here, and we just answer it, and we have a good time. And today's even more of a good time because it's a launch day. We have a new product. So we're going to be, and I know people are gonna have a ton of questions, and that's what we're doing this. And I have my little buddy in town who, hi dude, hey, can you walk right back over there? My little guy's in town. He traveled with me this time. So, and so what we're doing is we're talking about the all new Connect Pro. And we're going to jump into the ins and outs. We're going to talk about all the things that make it special. We're going to take your questions. So let's dive into it right now. So first and foremost, why did we come out with the all new Connect? So first and foremost, the biggest thing that people have been asking for us for since we put an LCD screen on the original TTL Air Remote is they ask us to give them the power readouts for their flash head units. With the older system, it wasn't really possible to send that information back. So what we did is with our Bluetooth enabled lights, we now have the ability to send back, or we have the ability to sync a power level between the new remote and your actual flash itself. So you can actually look at the remote and see what is happening on your B10X or your Pro 11 pack or your A10. Especially if you have it, like for me, like whenever I have my A10 mounted as a hair light, I know where I'm at exactly on my power. So really, really cool feature there. It has access to all 6 of the groups, whereas with the older Profoto Air TTL remote, you had groups A, B, and C right there on top of the controls. With this one, you now have access to groups A through F. So the traditional Air remote that gave you groups A, B, C, D, E, and F, this has it as well. So now you can actually just simply click here at the bottom, and you can cycle very, very easily through the different groups that you have. So, and that still gives you access to the same rules still apply. So your groups A, B, and C are TTL and manual, just like they've always been. And your groups D, E, and F are manual only, just like they've always been. You can trigger that. So not only did you get what we call absolute power, which are your power readings on your AirX lights, we have group control, which is really, really killer. So let's also talk about, I'm trying to think about how to kind of dive into this thing. So maybe what we should do is talk about powering it up first and how you actually control the unit itself. And then as your questions come in, Anders will send off any that he thinks I should address here, and we'll talk about those. So battery-wise, AAAs are how we're still powering this thing, but we've kind of revamped how we do the whole battery process. So our older TTL remotes couldn't handle lithium batteries. They couldn't handle the higher voltage. This unit can absolutely handle lithium batteries. So you can do standard alkaline, your nickel metal hydride rechargeables. You can even rock lithium batteries inside of this thing. And it takes 3 now. People are probably going to ask, why did we decide to stick with AAAs over going with like a rechargeable lithium ion? It simply comes down to AAA batteries are really, really easy to get your hand on, and it's easy to pack spares inside your bag. So if you get to a shoot and realize that, oh man, I don't have fresh batteries or I forgot to recharge my batteries, then you don't have to worry about any of those issues because you can just put a new set of batteries into your remote. So that's the reason we stay with AAAs. A built-in lithium-ion battery just makes it too hard. You'd have to have like a power delivery system to charge it while it's on top of your camera. So we went with AAAs. What's really cool about this, though, is inside the remote itself is there's a system that you can actually tell it whether you're shooting regular alkaline batteries or nickel metal hydride batteries. You set that to auto, or you can tell it if you're shooting lithium. And now we have a battery indicator. So I should probably get closer so they can kind of see the insides of this thing. Can this focus on it?
Looks great.
Cool. So let me show you kind of what I'm talking about. So we have a really awesome battery indicator up here that's pretty darn accurate. So that first and foremost doesn't suck. But what you can do is you can dive into your menu settings here, and your battery type, you can either set it to auto or lithium, and that's going to give you a better representation of your battery life. So you know what's happening at all times with your trigger, which is really nice. It does a jam up job. So once you do that, you simply power up the unit here on the side by holding this button down. This is also your test button. So you can see that if I click the trigger, it fires off the lights that we have in the room. So that's your power and test button. Here on the front again, like I said, you have your groups A, B, and C. And then if you click the fourth button, it flips over to D, E, and F. So that's dynamite. Having all 6 of your groups right there to be able to access in both TTL and manual mode is really killer. If you want to put your group to sleep, you can simply just hit the button right here, set that group to sleep. Really, really easy stuff. If you want to select multiple groups, you just hit the same, whatever group is highlighted, you just hit it a second time. So, and then you could also put them all to sleep or wake them all up by holding down one of the buttons of the group. So that's just when everything's highlighted, and that will highlight across D, E, and F as well. That just means it's like a master control. It controls everything. So I'll fire that back up there. So really, really cool stuff. We're going to get into, in just a second, the things you need to know for absolute control or absolute power. But just so you kind of see all this stuff, it's really, really awesome. You can dive into the settings menu. We now have 100 channels in the air system setup, which is really dynamite. Tons of control mode. I'm going to talk to you about what Air 1 and Air 2 is here in just a second. And then you obviously have your sync modes, first, second curtain sync, auto FP, all that good stuff, Bluetooth. And then the rest of it's mostly like warning sounds and control sounds and stuff like that, tactile things that kind of give you information on, or kind of give you this feel of how the actual triggers are operating. I know one other thing that's always kind of been a pain point for some people has been the auto shut off of the Air TTL remote. People have asked all the time, how do you turn the power or how do you set that to not happen? So one of the cool things inside the Connect Pro is you have a couple of options. So you have a standby mode, which will actually put the unit to sleep after a period of inactivity. So you can just tell it, I think it's like 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and like never. And then you also have an option for auto off, which is like 15 minutes, like an hour, and never. It's something like that. It's something big. So if you don't ever want it to turn off while you're on a shoot, you can set it to never and not have to worry about it. You have to remember that if you forget to leave it, or you forget to turn it off when using that setting, and you throw it in your bag, it'll probably cook through the batteries overnight or something like that. I could be wrong. I don't know how long the actual batteries will roll for, but just know that it will drop the life of your battery. So that's just something that's really, really good to know. So does anyone have any questions or anything, Anders, right now?
Well, there's maybe need a little bit of clarification regarding B1, B10, B2. So.
Okay, yeah. So let's jump into our absolute power, what we call absolute power, which is our being able to see the number on your flash on your remote. So it's the fan kicking on behind me. I was like, it sounds like there's something happening back there. So one of the things that people are going to wonder, obviously, is how or what lights are going to work with the new setting with your absolute power settings. So essentially it comes down to is if your light has Bluetooth built into it, it works. So that means the A10, the B10 and B10X, that's both the normal and the plus version. So any of the B10 series, the A10 series, the Pro 11 works awesome with it. The C1 Plus, coincidentally enough, is all Bluetooth setup. It works awesome with it. So if you're using the C1 Plus for like a little accent light and you have it shoved inside of a lamp, you don't even have to pull your phone out anymore. You can actually see that power setting right here on the display of the Connect Pro, which is sweet. So any things like your B1Xs, your D2s currently, they don't work in that Air 2 mode. It's just a thing with the way the radios and the processors talk to one another inside the flashes. It's not something that they can send back. It's just not those. That's just not information that can go back. This is all information that I've been talking with our awesome engineers about to figure out how this stuff works and why we can do things with certain things and why we can't do things with other things. So it's mostly just decoupling. So cool stuff.
So how complex is the process to switch between TTL and manual?
To switching between TTL and manual is as simple as so somebody was asking how hard is it to switch between TTL and manual with this thing, and you hit the auto button and you're in TTL mode, and then you hit the auto button again and you're back in manual mode. So it's as simple as a one button press that we had with the older TTL remote. Now it actually is just an auto button right here. On On the non-TTL version, I believe there's just a lightning bolt here. I think it just puts the head to sleep, right, Anders?
Yes.
Yeah, so if you're using the non-TTL version, so like the single pin universal remote, you won't have an auto button because there's no auto. It should just be a head on and off button. So just know that there. But for TTL manual, boom, boom, you're in and out.
And it has HSS.
Yeah, all the high-speed sync stuff. So if you're TTL, it's high-speed sync, and that is true for you Leica shooters. I know that Leica shooters have been asking us for a really long time about getting a TTL remote. We are now launching a TTL remote. It's the Leica and the Sony one are delayed just because one, not inventory, supply chain. I couldn't kick out so some supply chain issues. But really, what's cool about a lot of the stuff that we do with Profoto and a lot of other camera brands, like your Fujis, your Sonys, now your Leicas, is, are we good?
Do you have the case?
Is the case not sitting right there? Oh, you know what? I didn't talk about this case. That's a good thing. So the cool thing about working with things like the Sonys, the Fujis, and the Leicas is that we actually work hand in hand with these companies. So to make sure that the TTL information that is inside of your trigger talks to your camera perfectly, we actually get those codes from these companies. And so all the stuff that we have jammed inside these is, oh yeah, I'll definitely hit on that. And so it makes sure that the TTL that you're getting is absolutely right on the money. So, and mine works. I've been using mine with the Fuji, even with like prototype software, and it's been brilliant. So one of the other cool things about and this is probably one of the things I love the most about the remote, is the new hard case that it comes with. So the nice thing about that is it's easy to throw the Connect Pro into the case, throw it into your bag, and you don't have to worry about any screen damage or anything like that. I mean, you have to push down pretty hard to kind of get to the remote in the first place inside this. So this hard case is really nice. Another little added bonus of the hard case is that there's room at the bottom to store 3 additional sets of batteries, and then simply put the remote inside the case, close it up, and now you have your remote, spare set of batteries, all in a hard case, super safe. So cool. Get rid of this case. There you go, sir. Thank you. Cool. And then, so another thing that's going to pop up because you're going to see it inside the remote is something called Air 1 and Air 2. So if you just think about Air 1 as our classic protocol, it's the first Air that we ever came out with. That's why it's called Air 1. So if you're using things like the B1X, you're using things like currently the D2 or like a Pro 10 or an A1 or an A1X, you're going to want to use Air 1. And that's just because, again, they don't have that information to kind of send that information back and forth. So therefore, I mean, they just don't talk. So now if you're using, all of the Air X enabled lights, so if your kit, consists of an A10 and a B10, you could easily use Air 2 and communicate back and forth and know exactly where your lights are. So let's talk about now Air 2 and some things that you need to know about. So when you're using Air 2, you know what? I really could use a B10. Oh, there's one right there. Never mind. Thanks, Anders. You're the best. So just so we can kind of see what's happening here. I don't know if this helps. A light stand probably would have been better, but I'll just do this in my arm. Can you see it just fine? Yes. Perfect. I'm great. We're great. It's all great. Let's turn this on. Group. So this is on channel 2 group B. So let's go here to channel 2 group B. And so what will happen now is whenever I adjust, oh, this doesn't have the firmware on it. This doesn't have the new firmware on it. All good. We'll just talk about it in general. So, note to self, whenever you get the new remote, make sure you update the firmware on your flash. It's very important or else it won't talk. So when you are using your Connect Pro with your lights in absolute power, so in Air 2 mode, you want to make sure that you're controlling your power from the trigger itself. If you walk over to the B10 that I was going to show you before I realized it didn't have the right firmware on there, and you adjust the power, it will not, the remote will not follow along with what your flash is now set at. What it needs to happen is there either needs to be a move made here at the trigger where you make a power adjustment, or you need, if you're in TTL mode, you fire off a shot and the remote sets the light by itself automatically for it to resync itself. So if you're used to kind of going over and I guess really one of the only downsides is if you're used to going over your lights and just adjusting it by hand, you're going to want to make sure that you're using it at the remote level. So you want to make sure you're controlling the power here and not going over the flash, or else they will get out of sync. And so you look down and you're like, oh, it's supposed to be at 6.9, but over there it's at like 7.5. It's not a good, it's not good when you can't figure out why your light's not where it should be. So just remember, everything should happen right here. And then the cool thing too is this right here will reflect everything inside the app. So if you're using ProPhoto Control 3 on either your iPad or your phone, or I don't know if it works on any other tablet, so let's just say iPad. So, but if you're using it on your iPad or your phone, what's happening here on the Connect Pro will be happening there, and what you're doing there on your mobile device will also correspond back to Connect Pro. So that's a really nice kind of setup, especially for in-studio shooting, easily just kind of adjust that kind of stuff there. So, but really,
one thing that we might want to put forward is that no matter what mode you are in, you can trigger any flash.
yes,
Because they're like, oh, can I use a B1 together with a B10?
Yes.
You can always trigger all flashes.
yes, correct. So even though you may not be getting the power readout of a B1X, you can still fire your B1X and your B10 together. It doesn't really matter what mode you're in. So just remember that. The one thing that was not going to happen is you're just not going to get the readout back from the B10. So you can still absolutely use everything together. And if you're worried about any quirks there, you could always just switch over to Air 1 mode anyway, which is, like I said, that classic Air mode, which TTL still works in. It's just not going to give you the power readout on the front. And work that way, you have all the ability in the world to do that. So, but other than that, it's a really, really simple remote. Power is controlled via dial now, as opposed to pressing buttons up and down, which are nice. Works really, really quick, super intuitive. And then again, you have all your settings on the inside, which are kind of really just insanely basic. I mean, it's all you need it to be is your channels, your groups, your air setting, your sync settings and stuff like that. And then the rest of it is all just auto off, standby modes and stuff like that. So any other questions from anybody? There's not really much shooting I should do with this thing today, because it's really just talking about what the product is and seeing if you have any questions. I know Anders is answering a lot of them via text, but it just...
I mean, what we can say is that the technology platform allows us to do a lot of things.
That's a solid point.
For that remote.
That's a solid point.
Add a lot of features.
Yeah,
in the
so
future.
one of the kind of the holdbacks of some of like our older, like the older Air TTL remote was back when we were printing everything on LCD screens. And so what was printed on the screen was permanent. That's just what it was. So like the Air TTL remote only ever had 8 channels. It could only ever have 8 channels. The cool thing about the platform of the Connect Pro is we've set this up to be able to add an infinite amount of features based off of what user demand is. They gave us this, they handed me this like a month ago or like 2 months ago. And the first thing they did was sat down with Anders and I, and they're like, hey, like what else should we add to this thing? And we gave them a whole litany of things, which would be really, really awesome. So hopefully we'll see some of those things in like a future firmware update, but the platform itself lends itself to extreme customization ability. So really, really cool stuff. But it's a dynamite remote. I hope you get your hands on one. It's my favorite trigger now. I've been using the Connect for a long time, but the Connect Pro is it hasn't left my camera except for right now or in my bag since I've had it. So it's a really, really great trigger.
Okay, so we got that. Will it show A1 power?
It will not show A1 power. So if it doesn't have Bluetooth in it, it will not show the power. So it's got to be, again, the A10, the B10, B10X, and that's both regular and plus versions, the Pro 11 or C1 Plus. I think that's our only Bluetooth lights.
Can you update the software using your iPhone?
Yes. So the only way that you can update the software on this, so someone was asking, how do you update firmware on this? It's via Bluetooth. It's through the app. There are no, that's a good thing to also talk about. There are no ports on this. So there's no USB-C port. There's nowhere to plug in. This is meant to be ran through the ProPhoto app for all your updates and stuff like that. That also being said, there's no way to plug a PC port into it. So if you're still wanting to trigger a flash off of an older camera that maybe have a PC sync port, you should still just stick with our original Air remote. That's going to be the best option.
Question from Olaf on Facebook here. Difference between European and American version?
The European and American, the European version doesn't speak English, and the American one does. That's a joke. There's, I'm sorry, I apologize. They're the exact same. If you buy one in Thailand or if you buy one in South Florida, they're the exact same. Yeah.
Will it control the B1X?
Will it control the B1X? It will control the B1X. It will not show you what the power reading of the B1X is. So.
And again, can you just repeat which one it's available for?
Yeah. So.
Nikon?
Yeah. So the flavors that we have. Oh, and there's one other thing that now that you said that I need to remember. So the flavors are Canon, Nikon, Sony, Fuji, and Leica. And then we also have the non-TTL version, which is just, it's a single pin, works on any camera with a hot shoe. One setting that the Canon and Nikon version have that none of the other ones have is there'll also be an X-Sync setting inside there. So if you want to use that trigger on some other camera that has a hot shoe, you can actually set it to X-Sync and it'll deactivate all the TTL pins, essentially turning it into a non-TTL remote. So that's one thing to know for Canon and Nikon shooters. You also have that option. Is that it?
Yeah, that was a funny joke.
She thinks it.
Yeah, at least someone thinks it's funny. Kate's back there. Kate's here in Sweden with us, which is sick, right?
Hey.
And she definitely shook her head no at me whenever I made that joke. It was was it in poor taste? I apologize. So,
Any
all right.
issues using with freeze mode?
Shouldn't be any issues in freeze mode because freeze mode for the most part is, or no, not for the most part, it is controlled at the flash level. So all this thing's going to do is send the signal. So you shouldn't have any freeze mode issues with it.
And when will the Sony version be available?
So I think both Sony and Leica are November, right? So they ship around November. And again, it's mostly due to supply chain issues. So those little shoes are buggers on the Sony. So
How many groups can you do with HSS?
So high-speed sync, all 6 groups will fire high-speed sync. So even though the groups D, E, and F will only be manual mode, the whole system will fire all the groups in high-speed sync. So you have access to all 6 groups.
Oh, I need to send John Hevik a shout out as well. He's happy to hear my voice.
Oh, nice. Anders is here, helping us rock and roll. So.
And soon we'll be back with something.
Ooh,
Yeah.
something cooking. Sweet.
Is there a discount code for watching this video? No, it's free to watch this video.
Yeah, this video is totally free to watch. Someone was asking if there was a discount code to watch the video. It's not. It's totally free. It'll be up for free forever. If you're talking about a discount code for watching the video for the remote, the problem is that they actually charge more whenever you watch this video. Whenever I'm talking, so you actually did yourself a disservice.
So one comment is that it will only trigger A1X and B2, but not control TTL.
No, not true. Sorry. So anything in the world that we've made that is TTL compatible, so that's the A1, the A1X, the B2, all of that works just fine with this thing. The only thing that is not going to happen for those lights is you're not going to see the power reading on the screen of the Connect Pro. So I understand that it's a little bit confusing. So everything works. So whether you're shooting with a 600B Air S with Air Sync inside of it, all the way to a Pro 11, this will trigger all of those, no problem. And whatever feature that flash has available to it, this works with that feature. So if your flash is a TTL high-speed sync enabled device, this will send TTL and high-speed sync codes to that device. So really it just comes down to what lights are going to give you the power reading on the screen, and those are going to be your Bluetooth enabled lights.
Good. They're asking about availability.
So I believe that everything except for Sony and Leica are in stock. They're ready to go. So like you could purchase right now. I know if you're watching this on Profoto.com, there's a little link that'll pop up. You can click that and go right to it. It should say in stock. So but they're ready to go now.
Good. Does D, E, and F groups D, and F have TTL?
D and F do not have TTL. So in their current form, they don't have TTL. We're always exploring doing new cool things. Who knows what we will.
Future-proof.
Yeah, it's future proof. That's a great way of saying it. So like, as we can make things happen, this unit will allow us to make things happen, which is kind of cool. We good?
Yeah.
Is everybody remotely happy?
There's a lot of questions popping in
Oh, cool.
here.
So we're just looking for questions, everybody.
So there are a lot of questions about what about old lights and we see the absolute power of old lights.
Yeah,
I can't really comment on that yet. But
yeah. I mean, there's, we're always looking. Again, it's relatively future proof. There's some things that we can do. There's some things that we can't do. We're looking into the things that we can do and the things that we know that we absolutely can't do. We're not going to do them. I don't want to say any of that stuff because I don't want to overpromise anything that winds up not happening. But we do have some stuff cooking. Just know, again, like Anders was saying, this thing's pretty future proof. So we should be able to hopefully do some cool things coming up with it. So.
yeah, okay. We have some.
Distance of signal.
Distance of the signal should still be the same. You should still get 300 meters out of the actual trigger itself. It should be just as powerful as it always has been. But also I don't think there's any proximity issues with working up close with it. I know that some people were having some issues with the original air remote, with it kind of being super powerful and blasting past it. But this thing, same distance, but pretty good stuff.
So what if you have an air remote TTL and an air connect? Why would I need this? What's the difference?
So if you have a Connect and you have an air remote TTL, why would you need this? Really, so you have to ask yourself, do you shoot with more than 3 groups? That's the first thing to think of. If you never shoot with more than 3 groups, maybe you don't need this. If you don't really care about what the power reading, first and foremost, if you don't have a light that is Bluetooth enabled that can send you the power reading, maybe not that big of an issue. You stick with your TTL remote, it's going to feel the exact same. Really, at the end of the day, I mean, I think this is probably going to get better battery life, which is a nice feature. And then you have a little bit more straightforward control inside of it to change some of those settings that you may or may not like. Again, if it ever becomes an option where you might want to use more than one light or more than 3 groups, having the other 3 available is really, really nice. But is there one other one?
Yeah, a button, our labels and buttons backlit.
They are not. I think, no, they're not. The labels and buttons are not backlit. So, yeah. Let's see.
Does it fit more securely in the hot shoe?
Yeah. So someone was asking how secure does it fit in the hot shoe? This thing it's pretty secure. The actual locking mechanism at the base of the remote itself is pretty sturdy. It feels a lot like if you've ever used the A10's locking mechanism. It's the same one, and it's got a nice snap to it. It does a really, really good job of holding on.
Is there an out of focus light on it?
There's no out of focus light. So this does not have for like low light, like event stuff. It doesn't have like a red light indicator to help with focus. No, it doesn't have that.
Battery level showing whether you have rechargeable batteries or non-rechargeable
So
batteries?
I don't believe it actually tells you that. So when you're inside the actual battery setting itself, there's really just an auto setting and a lithium setting. So I believe that in the auto setting, it can sense between alkaline and nickel metal hydride. But lithium, you just have to you need to tell it that it's lithium because lithium is usually a different voltage. So that's why whenever you go inside the settings, it just says auto and lithium. So if you're using nickel metal hydride rechargeables or if you're using normal alkaline AAAs, again, it should be able to detect that in auto mode and give you a more proper battery indicator across the top. But it doesn't, the screen here, other than being inside the menu and telling you, the screen up here doesn't actually tell you whether you're in that. The real estate up at the top is mostly for your channels, whether you have your flash exposure warnings on, whether you have Air 1 or Air 2 enabled, and whether you are not connected to Bluetooth.
Compare the size.
Oh, size comparison. That's a good call. So here is the TTL remote that everyone knows and loves. Everything okay?
There's pro photo advertising right there.
Oh yes, yes. He loves it. That's actually It's not a tattoo. We branded him.
Yeah.
So it's
But the team couldn't see. You have to put it up there again.
oh, I'm going to. Oh, he has to put his. Gosh, you got to put up there again. No one saw it. He's the real deal. He's also got his social security number on there, so be super careful. Oh, hold on.
Come on.
Did you get focused? Do we have it?
Almost. Oh, there it is.
Perfect. Terrible waste of time, but it was definitely worth it. We were like, awesome.
Commercial break.
Yeah, commercial break. You're watching ProPhoto. So your standard TTL remote, if you've ever had held one or used one, this is honestly it's kind of the same size as the regular original Air remote. And so this one is the Kinect next to it. It's not that much larger. It's actually width-wise a little bit thinner. So width-wise, it's a little bit thinner. It's just a little bit. If it's taller, it's not taller by much. So it's honestly, they did a really good job of getting all the controls that you need into the real estate, giving you a much larger screen and keeping the footprint relatively the same.
Pull them in closer.
Oh yeah. People want to see them up closer? Is this fine?
Yes, we're in focus.
So there we go. And then here, let's power up so you can kind of see the screen on this one versus the screen on this one. So screen differences, but it's really is a brilliant trigger. Again, size-wise, they're not that off. Again, the Kinect Pro is going to be a little bit thinner, a little bit taller. But a lot of the like I said, I just think they did a really good job designing this thing. It's a brilliant trigger.
And also the battery. I mean, one guy says here that he can only, have to change batteries very often, but now with this one, it's.
Yeah, if you don't change batteries very often with this thing, you'll rarely change batteries with it. It's substantially better. So that's someone was asking.
6 hours.
Yeah. Someone was asking earlier, like, what are some of the reasons? Like, why would I choose this over this? If so, again, if you use more than 3 groups, obviously, because you have the access to the other 3. If you ever need more than the 8 channels that you have on this, I didn't think about that either. If you're in like a really congested airspace, again, this is the good move. If you have an AirX Lite where you can see the power, this is where I would go with this, but also the battery life on this. So if you've ever had any issues with battery life with your TTL remote, this is night and day different. So very cool.
And then you have the regular remote will still be available for those that need sync port.
Exactly. So if you need to plug an Air device into another light to get Air to something that's not ProPhoto branded, or if you're using like maybe an old camera that syncs via PC on the lens or PC out of the camera, you would want to still use the original Air remote, the one without any screens, just the buttons. That's our option for having sync ports.
And if you use the non-TTL version, that means that you can trigger the flash but not use TTL with that.
Correct. Yeah. So the non-TTL version of the Kinect Pro does everything that the Kinect Pro should do, which is give you the readouts of your enabled lights. You just won't have the option of flipping into TTL mode or doing high-speed sync. Essentially, just always remember that if you don't have TTL mode, you're not going to have high-speed sync. They're kind of hand in hand. That's not just.
Is there a test button on it?
There is. The test button and the power button are the exact same. So if you just click the test button on the side, that's your test button. So it doesn't illuminate. I don't think any of them have ever illuminated. So I was trying to think if that was a thing, and it's not. So to power up, it's just you hold the button down, powers up and powers down. One thing that you should do, because we're going to annoy you about it until you do it, but it annoyed me in the beginning, is you'll get, but it's a good annoyance because you're going to get an extra, 1-year warranty out of it by registering the device? So like if you register within like 60 days, you get like another year of warranty on your device, but there'll be a QR code that normally pops up when you haven't registered it. So I've registered mine. But there would be a QR code that pops up there. You just scan it, register it, or you would open up your app and connect it to your app and just register it there. That'll automatically get you an additional year of service. As far as warranty claims go, you'll also be able to check immediately for firmware updates because this thing's so new. I'm sure we're going to have a couple of bugs that we're going to constantly be squashing, but that's what's really nice. You just open up the app, hit the button, firmware update, and you're done. So. And
the Leica version will be compatible with the SL2s.
It will be. Okay, so is that what they're asking? Is that what you're telling me?
No, it's asking if it's for all.
Gotcha.
Amazon, but it's for the SL2.
It's for the SL2?
Yeah.
Okay, so
That's the studio camera.
gotcha. So right now the Leica version is compatible with the SL2. So not with the M's that we know of.
Not yet.
Okay, not yet with the M's. So right now SL2 compatibility with Leica.
Moisture sealed, weatherproof.
Absolutely not.
No.
There's no moisture seal to it. So try to keep it out of swimming pools, maybe dishwashers. I wouldn't wash it in the dishwasher. But other than that, I think at this point, I've just decided that I want to see how many times I can make you shake your head no at me. Yeah. It's a game at this point. So is that it?
No, I think there's popping in a lot of, there's some discussions internally with members there.
Yeah.
Uh,
People probably like my hair. Some of them probably don't like my hair.
Well, there was a comment if that would actually if you bought that one, if you would be as good looking as Chris Payne.
You would probably be better looking than me because, you know, what I've got going on right here. It's not well endowed. So, sorry, we're searching for a couple more questions to see if anybody has anything before we log off for the day.
Gazillion like about SVCL,
Oh, people want.
No, it works for the SL.
Yeah,
Period.
yeah, and like a LAN cameras.
Yeah, the SL is the.
Yeah, the SL is the studio camera, so that's the one that when. So again, we did this with Leica, so I'm sure Leica has an umbrella they want to keep things compatible with. So that's what they've decided on right now, and it's probably mostly just squashing out bugs first before we can expand. So hopefully.
Well, at least you have hair.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? You know what? There's a lot of people who don't have hair that look fantastic. So I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that.
And is there a battery level on the remote?
There is. So let's get up close so you can see. So can they see this? Is that too close?
You're good.
So there's your battery level indicator right now. It's got fresh batteries inside of it. So, and up at the top too, again, this 2 that you see is just letting you know what version of Air you're in. So if you go back to Air 1, it just flips over 1. And then it has kind of like the traditional up and down that you're used to seeing with the TTL remote. So cool.
Cool.
Are we happy, Pappy?
I think we're getting pretty close.
Sweet. This is mostly a Q&A day for Facebook and stuff like that and YouTube. So that's what we're doing. There's not a lot of shooting. It's a new product. We're just making sure that you have all the answers that you might have, or all the answers to the questions you might have. So
And it's AAA batteries.
AAA batteries, yes. Currently AAA batteries. There's no way to change that to anything other than AAA batteries. So I don't know why I said currently. So it's a hardware issue, not a software issue.
Yeah, I think we covered everything so far. Weight, same or heavier?
Honestly, it might be a touch heavier. Oh no, it's not. It might be a little bit heavier, but it's probably due to the third battery that's in there. So whereas this is using 2, this has 3. But if it's heavier, it's slightly heavier. It's not by much. I know that's not like the end all be all of like how do you weigh something, but the Chris hand juggling method says that they're relatively close. So we good?
I think we're good.
Sweet. Well, this has really been awesome. We're excited about the Connect Pro. We're always usually accessible. You can hit us up on the chat. We have our one-on-ones that you can jump out into. I think, is Gibbet out there right now?
Yeah.
So Gibbet's out there right now. If you're on prophoto.com, you can click the button and jump over and talk to him if you have any more specific questions. You can turn the video on if you want him to see your face. You can leave the video off and just leave your microphone on if you just want to talk. So you can do that. If not,
6 hours every day, every working day.
oh yeah, 6 hours. We do. Yeah. So we do the you can jump on a video chat with either myself, with Anders, or Gibbet 6 hours a day. So it's between
1 o'clock and 7 o'clock Central European time.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think it goes like 1 o'clock for me. So Eastern. So I'm usually on there between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. Eastern time. So you can again jump on there and chat with us there, and then we have a bunch of information on the website. But in the meantime, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us. Just for the record, if you want some more Q&A stuff tomorrow, we're doing an IG live. That is also at the same time. I believe it's at the same time as this was today. So awesome. In the meantime, Have an awesome rest of your day. Peace out.